Hello and welcome back to my channel for a quick sit-down chat. I wanted to go over some of the reflecting that I've been doing with the end of the school year. I realized in my vlog with the last week of school, I never really talked about what I was reflecting on in the last week, in those last days of a school year, but I always do spend a good amount of time. Like anytime, there's the end of a year, or sometimes end of a month, I like to sit down and reflect on the things that I learned, the things I'm grateful for. And I did include in this particular journal entry things I'm letting go of after the things I've learned this school year. And just for some context, it is Sunday. This is the first weekend after the end of the 23-24 school year. As a speech pathologist in the school setting, and most educators probably feel this way, those final few weeks of the school year feel like there's a lot of go, go, go. For me in particular, if you've seen the past couple vlogs, there were lots of changes that didn't end up changing, but I was preparing for a move. At one point it was a move from the site I'm at to another site, then it didn't happen, then it was going to be a classroom, then that didn't happen. So there was packing and unpacking and questions and unknown. There was a lot of busyness, and so it's really important to take time either during those moments of busyness or maybe once they've subsided, for me, for my mental health and mindset, to reflect. So that's what I did this morning. I sat with my Say Thanks More journal. These are my journals. I don't talk about them enough on the vlogs, but I do have a gratitude journal that I've created, actually a few. I can link them down below for you. Just to give you guys, ways to think about gratitude and mindfulness to help you be consistent with that practice. I'm gonna go through my reflections for the school year. Maybe you can use these different things as a way for you to start your reflection. Use it kind of as a journal prompt for yourself. But the first thing I want to talk about are the things I'm grateful for from this school year. And the first one that came to mind when I was sitting down to journal was I did find a lot of joy, grounding, presence by the shift of how I delivered my services. We went to more of a collaborative, push-in style, co-teaching style model this year. It wasn't for every student. We still had individualized services across the board, but we were very thoughtful in maybe how we were delivering those services, because in preschool, having that co-teaching model where it's already an inclusion-based program, but being able to get in there and be part of the language-rich environment, do circle time lessons, be a part of center time activities was really, really cool. I got to connect not only with my students, but I got to connect with the general education students and all of the teachers and the aides and do a lot of modeling. And it had me be very involved in the classroom. So I got to see my students almost day in, day out. I mean, I got to see them in different parts of their day and listen to their language and monitor. It was so cool. And I just got to connect and meet them where they were at. So that was really cool. So that was my first thing I was grateful for, just that ability to be more present inside the classroom and not feel so isolated, like I'm the speech therapist, they're the teachers. It was very cohesive. So that was really cool. The second thing I wrote down, because there's so much up and down with this year, was my speech room. I am so grateful for that space, and I've learned a lot, and we're going to get into that in a minute about how temporary that space is. It may not always be my speech room, but I was really grateful, especially because I was pulled between 3 sites this year. To have a home base was really, really, really powerful for me, just to have a space, one, to store my things, but to find grounding, a place where I could write my reports and think and reflect. And so very grateful for that. Number 3 that I wrote down, of course, there's more things that I'm going to say here to be grateful for, but number 3, you guys, the vlog, for being along for this ride. I had a goal to vlog at least halfway through the school year. I knew the spring and the winter could get a little bit busier. So my goal was to make it to November, December-ish, just to see how it went. And I kind of forgot about that goal and kept going. You guys were honestly one of the best parts of my year. Not to, diminish how amazing it is to just do my job and be connected with my students, but getting to connect with other SLPs in this space and more long form videos and share how my days are going and my thought process about things, how I plan, how I don't plan, all of those little things, and just, getting to talk to you guys about it and hear back from you has been nothing short of amazing. I am so grateful, and I'm excited to continue on. The funny thing is, I started vlogging over the summer to get used to it. But now I have a whole year of vlogging in the schools under my belt. And so I'm excited to just bring you along and continue that life-work balance that I feel like we've really struck a balance with here. Yeah, thank you for being here. Then the fourth one, which again, these are not listed in any, like, none takes precedent. And I say that because this one is my colleagues. I mean, and I am just, it is not lost upon me that I can say that the majority of the colleagues that I work with are my friends, very best friends. You know, from my SLPA to the teachers I work with, and obviously in that mix is all of the SLPs I work with, my preschool team. You guys, I mean, if you're watching this, I don't know if you watch these, but if you do, please know, like, you guys have helped me survive this year and just kept me smiling, kept me laughing. Again, I'm so grateful. And especially, you know, being between sites, I was at 3 different sites this year. So to have the preschool SLP team to, like, talk through all of that with was really awesome. You know, and I always say this to new SLPs, but find your SLPs, like, in your district, especially if you're in the schools. Even if you're a contract SLP, you can still make connections with the SLPs that work in that district. It's so helpful because you'll have people that, one, have your back, but two, know things that maybe you don't know. So, like, especially about, like, district procedures and things, you know, if I don't remember or I don't know something, it's just so helpful to be able to reach out and have people that are like, let me find out, or yeah, I know, you know, so very awesome. And sometimes it's just nice to have a group of like-minded people that understand what you do. Also going into those classrooms, like, and building relationships with the instructional aides, with the teachers. Oh my gosh, I'm just so grateful. You know, and then I did mention earlier my SLPA, but girl, if you watch these vlogs, like, you know, you get me through. And I'm very grateful for you. I don't want to say names because I never want people to feel uncomfortable, but yeah, I've got my speech besties, man, my speech family, and y'all know who you are, and it just is amazing. Anyways, the last thing I wrote down, it kind of goes back to number 1, being in the classrooms. Like, we did a lot more outdoor speech types of things in the spring, which was so fun. It really filled my heart. Getting to implement the core boards, which I talked about a lot in the, like, first half of the school year, because we were really working on building that core board. I was learning how to do a year of core, teaching the kids the signs that go with it, all the symbols, and, like, getting used to more AAC just embedded in the preschool program was just so huge and so powerful to watch the kids really enjoy it. So that was the 5th thing I wrote. Obviously, there's so much more, but we're gonna move on to the things I learned this year. And again, there's more than I've written down, but I just have a top 3 list here that I'll go through with you. The first one, how to better assess for and implement AAC. I learned so much this year in the open access. I actually did tier 1 and tier 2 this year. Tier 1 is when I did it, was a 2-day training that I did in September. And then after that, you can go into the implementation tier 2. And oh my goodness, that was a 9-week, something like that. It went over the span of a few months because they spaced it out for us, but it was so powerful, so amazing. I even conducted my 2 assessments that you're supposed to do for your certification once that was over. Don't know if I'd recommend that, doing it so quickly and in the spring when things are crazy for preschool SLPs on top of that, but I did it. And it was, I mean, my learning, like, my brain, I felt my brain expanding this year in such a big way. I always try to pick one thing to focus on every school year. That was my thing, AAC. And I'm still learning. I'm not saying the learning is done. It never is. But I am grateful for yet another group of SLPs that I have to mentor me and also just to learn from. So that has been really, really cool. The second thing I learned, which this really started in January when I started rereading Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, but I really felt like in the last 5 months, I've learned how to better let go of things I can't control. I do think I'm more type B SLP, but there are things I'm passionate about that I might react a little bit more about. And I really got to practice letting go and just keeping my heart open when I didn't agree with things, just trying to understand versus control situations. so much was up in the air at the end of the school year with change. Overall, like there was so much unknown that happened in the last 3 weeks of the school year. And I was very proud of myself that I just kind of let it go and didn't focus on it and focused on other things. It kind of helped that I had other things to focus on, but I really didn't feel as stressed out as I have in previous final weeks of the school year. So I think that, and I'm going to continue to practice and let go and stay open, because every day there's opportunities, but that has really helped me. Highly recommend that book. Highly recommend Michael Singer's podcast. Again, things I can link below for you, so I will do that in the description. The third thing I learned kind of goes along with the second thing I learned, but one of the things that I started realizing was, how do I still advocate for myself? How do I still set boundaries if I'm like, well, I'll let it go? I really learned that saying you're going to let things go and relax doesn't mean you have to become a doormat. A really good example of this is when I was told my room was going to change, my classroom. My principal came to me and said, you're not here every day. I need this room for other things. I'm going to move you across campus to a smaller room, which number one thing that I remember thinking, which I was proud my brain went here instead of, oh my gosh. I mean, I did get sad in front of him. I got sad, but my first thing was, well, I'm grateful he's not telling me I don't have a room. But then, in thinking logistically about how that would work for me, I realized that's a long walk for preschoolers to go to speech. It's going to take a third, if not more sometimes, of their speech time and their service time. And how am I going to schedule that? That's going to there's a lot that will need to be factored in. Another thing logistically was the space. I do a lot of play therapy. So, I was relaxing into it. I was letting go, but I realized I need to problem solve some things. And so I went to him again and said, look, we need to talk about just how that would look for my kids. Is there any other space? Is there space closer to the preschool classroom? I need a bigger space because I sometimes am co-treating with my SLPA, and there were things. So even in that, I was learning. Yes, I've let go. And a thing that I really, in that example, I was letting go of too was the emotional attachment I had to my speech room. I really had to recognize that, it's just a space. It's 4 walls. It's served me so well, and I'm grateful for that. But let's move on and let go and really see what the possibilities are in a new space. But there were things I did need to advocate for. Turns out I'm no longer moving. So that's kind of cool. Anyways, I'm very grateful for that, but it still is a good reminder of what to let go of, And there obviously are bigger things to advocate for, to set boundaries for. One thing that I learned, because I was like, well, how do I let go but still advocate? One thing I learned was, well, what is the role I'm playing here? And always at work as a speech language pathologist, my role is I'm an advocate for my students, right? And so I have to think about the impact on them, the impact on their services, the impact on their communication and their ability to build connections. And so things would change. We would learn information. I would get frustrated because maybe it meant more work for me. But I had to let go of that. But then I was thinking, well, but what is the root of who's getting impacted by this, and who, do I still need to advocate? Do I still at least need to share information while I'm still relaxing and letting go that will better support my students? And so there were moments, with maybe placement decisions and things where I'm like, well, wait, this student can handle this, or this student needs support in this, or areas that maybe I felt, we needed to set a boundary or we needed to advocate for. I realized, well, my role here is as an advocate for the student, not for myself. And if my role is to be an advocate for myself, why? Is it just because I'm not ready for change? Or is it because I can't do my job to provide for the students if this is a situation? Those are the things I learned. Okay, let's move on. Things I let go of. So I wanted to include this. That is has been such a big, powerful piece of my learning and my growth this school year. As I think, as I was writing this, I was like, okay, what am I still kind of holding on to? One thing that I realized I was holding on to was how crazy scheduling between 3 sites got, especially in the spring. That feels really good to just relax and move past it. But it was crazy. We're gonna, just call it what it is, and it doesn't matter. We let it go. The second thing I'm letting go of, because I talked about this and I did let go of this in the moment that I was told I wouldn't have it anymore, my speech room. And I think that was a really good lesson to understand. Again, just things are temporary. Change is the constant, right? And so that could always change, and I'll always be grateful for the space that I have, whatever it looks like. But yeah, that was definitely something I got to let go of this year. The judgment from others. There were so many moments this year where I felt like I could have gotten, and there were moments I did get caught up in it, because I was in those classrooms and there would be other professionals in the classrooms or staff members that maybe I felt were watching me or judging how I did my job because I do things differently than some and some do things differently than me. And so something I learned from Michael Singer, I've always known this, but I like the way he puts it. They do their job how they do their job. I do my job how I do my job. And if I don't agree with how they do their job, or again, there's that caveat of what's my role? Am I an advocate for this student? Well, then how can I better advocate for my student? If there's a situation, like there were situations where core boards weren't being used for students that I said needed a core board. Yeah, I'm frustrated because you're telling me you don't believe in this or you don't think they need it. And I'm saying, well, I have written goals for them where they, this facilitates their language. And so that's just an example, but it's definitely something that really happened. And so just how, am I better advocating for my students, but taking away the judgment of another person and how they do their job. It's about the student. It's not about, my ego feeling bruised or needing to one-up you or anything like that. And so I've really let go of that. My fourth thing was my own reactions, my own judgments of things, of people, because there were moments where I felt that I was doing that. And in those moments, instead of criticizing myself and saying, oh, dang, like I'm being so judgmental or whatever, I've learned also how to let go and just relax and say, okay, I'm going to do better next time. I have this moment to let go and now move on. And maybe, something I can do and something that does help me is to find something to be grateful for about that person. If I feel myself judging them or something, just, okay, what can I be grateful for? And it really helps. It really helps you find that grounding. And then the next time you start to go there, your brain kind of starts to get used to that habit of like thinking of something you're grateful for. So it can more easily divert. Takes practice, but that is something I've worked on. The last thing I wrote here was letting go of the things I cannot control, even the things that I can. Sometimes you're like, well, this is in my scope, or I have the control here. But like, it's really important, or I've learned it's really important for me to ask myself, but should I? Like, does this other option actually benefit? For instance, like again, when we're looking at a placement decision and we're talking specifically about their speech and language needs, like if another team member, even if they're not an SLP, but they have good input, I always tell the teachers, you see these students a lot more days than I do. Like, what do you think? Just because I'm the speech language pathologist doesn't mean you have no say in, how they're accessing language in the classroom. I always want their input. And so sometimes I have to let go what I think needs to happen. But again, it comes down to, well, what's my role and who am I advocating for and what do they need in this moment? But sometimes I have to look at myself. Again, it's an ego thing and say, do I need to go here? Should I do this? So it's more of being mindful about how I approach situations. It's more of being mindful about reacting less to situations and not giving that energy to situations. So that's kind of how I was thinking about that when I was reflecting. And that's my reflection. Like I said, no, this is a little bit of a different style of a video, but I thought it would be really cool to just sit down, to chat, have it out, and go into summer break feeling that kind of grounding and balance, because again, for some of us, these end of the school years can just be a little bit of a tornado. So I wanted to encourage you to sit down, use these exact prompts if you want, or use it as a stepping stone. Maybe there's a different way you think about it and reflect on it. If there is, by the way, please comment and let me know, because I'm always looking for new ways to think about things and reflect. It always helps me gain some perspective and just to incorporate that into my own mindfulness routine. So I'd love to just share mine. Here's mine. And you'd like to share yours, feel free in the comments. But I am grateful you're here. I will see you in another video, probably a vlog, most likely a vlog, but I am grateful and excited and, feeling good, feeling relaxed. So I hope you find some time to reflect, and I can't wait to see you next.